Your X matrix may be the most convincing evidence that your company is aligned when it actually isn't. And before anyone gets angry with me, I like the X matrix. I believe in Hoshin Kanri. I've used this tool. It can be very powerful. But I've seen something happen repeatedly in American manufacturing. We complete the process, we put a check mark in the box, and then we assume we're done. And that's exactly where the problem starts. I've watched leadership teams in some of the largest and most successful companies spend an enormous amount of time developing strategic goals. They debate them, refine them, put them in the X matrix, throw them in a presentation, everyone nods, and it's declared, we are aligned. But are you? Because alignment isn't a document. It's not a meeting. It's not an X matrix hanging on the wall. And it certainly isn't something you accomplish once a year and then put away until the next strategic planning cycle. Alignment is what happens when the organization actually behaves like everyone understands and accepts the objective. And that's something I've only seen a handful of times in the last 20 years. But what I have seen too many times to count is the executive team skipping a part, arguably the most important part, catchball. We've missed the spirit of the methodology. Leadership establishes direction, then that direction moves down through the organization, but it isn't supposed to simply be handed down. It's supposed to get challenged and discussed, refined and tested against reality. Then information comes back up and leadership adjusts, the next level adjusts, the process continues. That's catchball. And that back and forth is where something incredibly important happens. Strategy meets reality, but I've seen leadership teams spend so much time getting their strategic goals that by the time they finally have them, they're exhausted. Middle management is exhausted, people are disengaged, and everyone just wants to get the process over with. So catchball gets shortened or performed superficially or skipped altogether. And now leadership has a beautifully organized strategy that hasn't actually been tested against the people who have to execute it. That's not alignment. That's communication. And communication isn't alignment. Here's another example. Leadership decides we need a 10% improvement. Okay, but why 10%? What's that number based on? What does the data say? Is 10% actually achievable? Is it too aggressive? Or the question I really want people to consider, is it dramatically too low? What if the real opportunity is 30%, 50, or what if it's 90%? If leadership starts with a number because it sounds reasonable or achievable or impressive, they've already put a ceiling on the conversation. The goal should come from reality, not ego, not politics, not what sounds good in the boardroom, reality. And then something else happens. The goal starts moving through the organization, and it's like a game of telephone. Leadership may say, we need to increase capacity, but by the time it filters all the way down to the production floor, the person running the machine hears work faster. And that's not what leadership intended. But that was the message received. That's dilution. And once the why disappears, people fill in the blanks themselves. There's another part to this that doesn't get talked about enough. People have careers and egos and departments to protect. People have reputations, and sometimes people are afraid to tell a senior leader, I don't think this is going to work, or I think we're solving the wrong problem, or the production floor is telling us something completely different. So instead they nod, the goal moves forward, and everyone appears aligned, but they're not. That's one of the most deceptive forms of misalignment because it's invisible to the people at the top. They look around the room, everyone agreed. The X matrix is complete. The strategy has been communicated. The boxes are checked, so leadership assumes we're aligned. But what if everyone simply learned how to appear aligned. And then you could have something even more interesting. Every department can be aligned with itself while the company is completely misaligned. Finance wants cost reduction. Operations wants throughput. Quality wants fewer defects. Engineering wants stability. Sales wants flexibility, and HR wants retention. All of these objectives can be legitimate, but if every department optimizes its own objective without understanding the system as a whole, you don't have alignment. You have competing optimization. And sometimes the thing that makes one department look successful makes the entire company worse. That's why radical alignment has to happen across the entire organization, not just within leadership and not just within departments, across the entire system. So here's something I would challenge every executive watching this to do. Take your most important strategic objective. Then find a production operator, a supervisor, plant manager, director, vice president, and finally the CEO. Don't show it to them, but ask each individually. What is the most important thing we're trying to accomplish right now? Why? How will we know we've succeeded? What is getting in the way? What would you change? And don't correct them, don't explain the strategy, don't defend leadership, just listen to the answers. Compare them. If they sound dramatically different, you have discovered something incredibly valuable. You have found your alignment problem. And this is why I don't believe radical alignment is a one and done exercise. Because organizations and the people within them move and change, as do external factors, constantly. And every one of those changes can create misalignment. So leadership has to continually ask, are we still aligned? Does everyone understand why? What are we seeing that we didn't see 6 months ago? What has changed? What are we missing? Where are we drifting? Because misalignment in itself isn't necessarily a failure. Not knowing you're misaligned is the failure. Because once you know, you can correct it. I don't want American manufacturing to abandon Hoshin Kanri, the X matrix. I don't want us to abandon Lean, Six Sigma, Kaizen, or continuous improvement. What I want us to do is finally realize their full potential, because we haven't. Like I said, I've only actually seen it in a handful of times in the last 20 years. But that's why this is so exciting. There's this huge untapped potential for major stepwise improvement across the majority of American manufacturing companies, ripe for the taking. What those handful of companies have that sets them apart from all the others is radical alignment. When the organization can move in the same direction while still allowing reality, information, and better ideas to move in every direction. And it isn't something you complete, it's something you protect every day. That's radical alignment. And I'm showing up here every week to show you exactly how to achieve that. Because I believe America can lead the world in manufacturing again. So join me, join the movement.